Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Bracha v'tzlacha to all my Bukharin brothers and sisters. I would like to say, my life was a life of security, of hardships, of success, of failures. And in life, a person has to learn that it's not all about fame and glory. It's not all about where a person would be in life, what position he is, but certainly not about when a person does not present facts or evidence, or does not live, like we say in Hebrew, the mitziut, the reality of things. The reality of things in life is so important. In this past week's Parsha, last weekend, Yitro saw the reality of who God was. He came before Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, Moshe, I will give you an idea, an advice, how to help the community, how to advise the community, where the community cannot be beholden upon one individual man. The community must need a leader, and if there isn't, there's other leaders who can help you. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was so overwhelmed by the amount of people and what they needed. Yitro comes and gives advice. An outsider gives an advice. His father-in-law, a person who's not Jewish, the Kohen of Midian, the priest of Midian, some say he was the prince of Midian, according to many commentators. And nevertheless, Moshe Rabbeinu put his head down. He said, you know what? Yitro, you're right. I will take upon your advice. I will build a community in a fashion that's even greater than we need. I will make the community the way we should have the community be. And Moshe Rabbeinu, what did he do? He fulfilled the mandate of Yitro. He ended up satisfying and building underlings, meaning peoples who will help him in the venture of him educating the Jewish community. In reality, what happens? Moshe Rabbeinu, with Yitro, we learn a valuable lesson. No matter how great you are, no matter who you are, help is always needed. Collaboration is always important. And in that week's Parsha of Yitro, B'schut he was the Shem Shamayim. B'schut the fact that he was an individual of a capacity, that he was a person who came and acknowledged God on his own. And I gave a drasha in last week's Shabbat that we learned there's a difference between a Yitro, a Bil'am, and Iyov. Three of them were before Paro for advice. And Paro took the advice of Bil'am, of course. Because Bil'am, what did he do? He said, kill all the firstborns. Because Paro did not want anyone to take his place. Paro did not want anyone to be besides him. He wanted to be the lone wolf, the lone individual who would be the leader of Mitzrayim. And not just that, who would be the master of the Jewish nation. As if he has some sort of contract with the Jews, that the Jews are his people. And yet, he made the Jews suffer. He made the Jews be what they are. And of course, we know we have the story of Pesach every year to remind us of that treachery of Paro. And what does Paro do? He takes the advice of Bilam HaRasha. Bilam becomes the enemy of Moshe Rabbeinu, the enemy of our Jews, the enemy of our forefathers in the Midbar, in the desert. And what happens? Iyov keeps silent. Keep silent. And that silence, we know the story of Iyov, that God wiped out and tested him through his silence because he was silent. To see, is he truly a person of silence? Is he a true person of acknowledgement? Because he was silent, he was tested in such a massive level that what did he do? Iyov himself lost his family. His wife, his kids were killed. They died. He lost all his prominence, his greatness, his wealth. That was his test because he was silent. But Yitro was a different man. What did Yitro do? Yitro fought Paro. He said to Paro, no, why should you do? You should let them live. What did they do to you? Paro said, you're going against me. Paro wanted to kill Yitro. He wanted to kill Yitro. Why? Because Yitro said the good things. He said the right things. He said the things that are true, the things that are beholden upon any human being to say. Why kill people? Why? What's the purpose? And what does Yitro do? He runs away. And Yitro acknowledges Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu acknowledges Yitro's advice. The contrast between Paro and Moshe is Paro did not let anyone do anything. He was Ani Ha-Elokim, he says. I am the God. I am the master. And no one is better master than I am. That's what he says. But Moshe Rabbeinu, who's Av HaNevi'im, father of the prophets, who is the king of the Jews at the time, the Messiah of the Jews, who took us out of Egypt, puts himself down, accepts the advice of his father-in-law, Yitro, a non-Jew at that moment, and accepts his advice. The Torah teaches us the contrast between Paro and Moshe. Paro was a man of ego, and his ego divulged him to fail. Moshe Rabbeinu was a man of anava. One of my friends told me in the name of Moshe Wolkin, what does anava mean? Anav me'od. What Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know who he was. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand his caliber. Of course he knew his caliber. But guess what? He knew his caliber, but he also understood that every single Jew has the potential to be him or to become him. And therefore he said, if it wasn't me, it could have been the next guy, and the next guy. And that was why Moshe Rabbeinu was anav me'od. He put himself down amongst those others. He showed himself to be a tzaddik. He showed himself to be a man of tranquility, a man who did not have any kin'ah, any jealousy towards his fellow man. When Moshe Rabbeinu died, it was before Yoshua. And before Yoshua, his student, what did he say? He said, one jealousy is equal to 1,000 deaths. I would rather die 1,000 times than be jealous of my student or be jealous of any individual, which is the lesson of any individual around him. In recent events, Rabotenu, I can say thank you to all those who spoke Lashon Hara against me, or about me, of unfactual facts, of improper points, of baseless claims against me, or against what I do, or who I am. But I'd like to address one fact. There's a Bukhari word, Rishchori Chasut. Individuals don't understand who I am, what I am. Those individuals who spoke to me, or about me, have never spoke to me individually. I've never sat with me and learned Torah. Those who sat with me and learned Torah don't speak about me bad. They all love me. I all love them. I all have admiration for every single rabbi. I don't blame anyone from their actions. It's a shame that in our community, the speaking of Lashon Hara and Rechilut, of gossip, has become to such a massive state of being mutar, of being allowed. I'll give you an example. I read one time a sefer from Ovadia Hadayeh, Syrian rabbi, wrote a sefer Yaskil Abdi. He wrote books called Yaskil Abdi, Sfarim, voluminous, halachot. And Ovadia Hadayeh writes that when a person grows to a level of success, he says it's a must that people should talk about him, Lashon Hara and Rechilut and gossip. Like it says in the Midrash, he writes that when a person goes up to greatness, when a person goes up to become a good person, to actually help the community, which anyone who knows, helping the community is a very, very difficult thing to do. It's not easy. It's a sacrifice, not just for individual helping. It's a sacrifice for the family, for their relatives. But guess what? He says the gossip is that there should be a pocket, there should be a box of insects behind him always. What does that mean? He says, what does it mean? I'll tell you what it means, Rabotenu. It means very simple, that a person has to go through this as a process. As you go through life, as you do good for the community, he says it's required by that individual who's going to be the Nasi, the president, the leader, the Dayan, the successor, the synagogue, whatever it is he's going to do, whatever it is he's going to say, that it is required that people should talk about you. Because if not, he says Hashem wants that that person should go through kaparat avanot. There is no greater kaparat avanot than when people talk to you and bad about you, Rabotenu. So you have to accept it ba'ahava. I accept it all ba'ahava, with love, with admiration. I have no ill wills towards nobody, Rabotenu. I accept it ba'ahava, because he also says, Rav Yaskel Avdi, the Rav Avadia Hadaya, he says very powerful message. He says, I've seen many times those peoples and rabbis and individuals and leaders who grew and succeeded, that they did not speak bad about them, and they did not go through any gossip or any bad talk against them, that they went through a smooth transition of success. He says, Hashem, lo aleinu, not to us, not to anyone, takes his kapara in a different way. He starts giving him sicknesses in order to cure and purify his sins, in order to show, listen, you made the sins that you did, and now I'm going to wipe your sins, I'm going to clean you up. God forbid, with mahalot, with sicknesses, with things that can be detrimental to your health, so on and so forth. And therefore what? He says many times we see many young rabbis or many young individuals or midlife rabbis in their mid 50s, mid 60s, that they pass away young. Why? Because no one spoke bad about them. So it says it's better for a person to go through richilut. It's better for a person to have lashon hara spoken about him in order to be mechaper kol avonotav. I don't know what avonot I made, that I need this or that I have this, but I am so glad, Rabotenu, that it happened, because now I know, based on Rav Avadia Hadaya, my life is for long and my life is mechupar. I want to say that the accusation, the clear accusation that potentially my certificates and my tu'udot of ordination wasn't somehow bought, forged, is baseless, it's untrue, it has no finding, no fact, it's completely false. That accusation is not acceptable, because it has nothing to do with me now. It ends up becoming a diss and a disaster to my family, a disaster to what my parents invested in me, and I'm only doing this with kibud aveim, as respect to my parents and as respect to all my Bukharian brothers and sisters, for you to know that if your child wants to become a rabbi, if your child tomorrow wants to become a dayan, he will never get pushback from me. I will help that individual grow. He will not get pushback from me. I will help that individual grow. I will do whatever it takes. If he really wants it and proves himself, I will be there backing him up for the future generations of Bukharian community in America. I will do it. I will not let that child go through, or your children go through, what I went through. But I can tell you one thing, Rabotenu, Rishchori Chasut. Individuals who don't even have what I have, they're the jealous ones. Let's clarify. Rabbi Brajil said very clearly, that I am Ra'ui to Misader Gitin, that I have the tu'udah for the Rabbanut. Just to clarify that fact. In 2014, Rabotenu, I got from Rabbi Hanan Kablan, 2014, tu'udat Dayanut. I never disclosed this information since 2014. This past year, I made it my venture to expand my horizon in Torah, to expand my learning capabilities, to expand who I am as a man and as an individual in Torah and in mitzvot. And what did I do? I got from Rabbi Lau smicha from Israel, from the Rabbanut, in order to be ordained as a marriage officiant. I got from Rabbi Abergil. I studied under him. I did shimush in the Bedin. I was apprenticed by him in the Bedin, in the Rabbanut of Israel in Jerusalem. And I studied under him in the laws and matters of Gitin, of divorces, and of that level. Rabotenu, I studied under Rabbi Kabbalan as well. I'm in constant discussions with all these rabbis, with all of them. I studied under them. I learned and apprenticed by Rabbi Leo ben Chaim for many years. There's no doubt about those facts. You cannot change the facts of the matter. By speaking Lashon Hara, by speaking Rechilut, does not change the fact. And it does not exonerate anyone from that Avereh and that sin. I am very happy that it happened. I'm very thrilled. I'm accepting of what had happened. Because as the Chovat HaLevavot says, when you speak Lashon Hara and Rechilut about a person, it's like a bank transfer. Hashem transfers your bank account with your funds and gives it to the person you spoke about him. Rabotenu, thank you for giving me all your zchuyot. It's a great honor that you gave me all these zchuyot. I will continue to service the community. Lebracha, leatzlacha, lepanasa, lebriut. Anyone who knows how I service the community, they know I don't take a salary from my shul. Anyone who knows the accounting in our shul, they know that we don't take salaries on our shul. I don't make any salaries. From my shul, I mefanest at least 3 to 4 rabbis. And they became very big rabbis, very successful rabbis. I constantly gave to the peoples. I never took from the peoples in this regard. And anyone who claims I have, so they should bring the evidence before me. Call me. Bring me to the table. Sit with me as individuals. Don't make things personal. Make things factual. Make things on the merits of its own. And you should know one thing, Rabotenu. This is the only message I'm going to give about this. From now on, I'm going to give only Torah messages. I want to give you a story. When I grew up here in America, my parents came from Israel in 1984, 1985. I remember this very clearly. One time I was with my father and my mother. We were in a Pontiac. We were driving by Regency Gardens over here in Main Street. This is the 1980s or early 1990s. I don't remember exactly. But I remember this as a vivid story. As my father's driving his Pontiac, there were a bunch of guys in front of him, drunk guys. He didn't know what to do. They were jumping on the car. He tried to get out, say, listen, please move. They started fighting with him. I saw this with my own eyes. They started making fun of him. What it means to be Jewish. They kicked off his kippah, off his head. Said, his yarmulke fell. And they started to fight because he was Jewish. When you don't realize what it means to live in America with anti-Semitism, when you don't realize what it is to live in America to being who you are as Jewish, when you haven't sacrificed like my parents have sacrificed, when you haven't realized that it's parents, it's a family involved here, when you haven't realized that I invested my time 10 years to be where I am today, and the audacity that people have to speak about me, Lashon Hara, Rechilut, and they don't even know me. They haven't even sat with me. They haven't even lived with me. They haven't even learned with me. They haven't even discussed anything with me. Rabotenu, this is chutzpah. This is not derech eretz. And you should know one thing. Derech eretz is not kadma le Torah. Derech eretz is not before Torah. Derech eretz is Torah. And this is a lesson that everybody should learn. That Rabotenu, it's very important. And I'm saying this from my heart. I will continue, as I always have, and has always made prime in my life, the individuality, the success of giving my heart to Torah. Because the Pirkei Avot says, don't think you're a big chacham and you own this chokhmah, that this chokhmah is yours, that this wisdom and this intelligence is yours. Don't think it's yours. You didn't buy it. God gave it to you. He gave it to you because that's what you created for. He gave it to you because you have to service the community. If not, He would have given it to someone else. It's a huge test in life, Rabotenu. I took this test. I made it my goal to learn, to educate myself, to learn myself, to always have the advice of my rabbis around me in every aspect I did. But at this point, Rabotenu, Rishchori Chasut. At this point, Rabotenu, Rishchori Chasut. And from this point you learn, Rabotenu, the Kin'ah is equal to 1,000 deaths. I have no malice. I have no ill wills to any individual. I only have love, and I continue to have the love towards them. I'll continue to show my love towards every individual, because it is not, and it will not be by me, the continuation of this machloket. But it's my obligation, as respect to my parents, respect to my wife, respect to my kids, to present an answer to the rechilut, to the lashon hara that has been produced this past week and the week before. I do not make any moves without the Gedolei Yisrael behind me, Rabbi Kablan, Rabbi Mazuz, Rabbi Brajil, and many other rabbis. And I'm willing to work with anybody. I am not a person who is a bad person. I'm not a person who has done bad to any individual. Everything that I've done has been done with the advice and hadracha of the giants of Torah. And at the same time, Rabotenu, at the same time, any claims that being a dayan, and for me to become a dayan, is for financial gain, Rabotenu, anyone who knows me knows I don't need that financing. I can make monies, and I do make monies in many other ways. And even though I make those monies, Rabotenu, I'm not that rabbi who's driving that Lexus. I'm not that rabbi who's driving that Mercedes. I'm that rabbi who's driving a 2008 Chevy Uplander. I'm that rabbi who will be there for you when you need me at the most critical times. I'm that rabbi who will be there for you when you need that critical education, as much as I humanely can possibly do. I'm that rabbi who will be with you and guide you to the right ways of life, have I been doing for the past already 15 years since my shul has been open. Bracha v'tzlacha, Shabbat Shalom, and tune in for my future podcasts, and tune in for my future shiurim, because I hope everybody will learn, and I'll learn myself, because the greater rabbi has learned from his students than from his rabbis. Bracha v'tzlacha, Parnasa u'briut, Shabbat.